course,
Also
the
good
bypass.
food. It's really good food.
Yeah,
It's all vitamins for you.
exactly. All right, so here we are. And Sharon, you volunteered to read
Yeah,
with
I'm going to read. Yeah, okay. Um, you can't stop the train. I live about 30 miles from Canyon Pass in Southern California, where long freight trains crawl over the summit and then descend a steep grade that runs towards the valley floor. These trains are enormous. Some are so long you can watch the locomotives curve around one bend while the last cars are still clearing the previous one. Once a train begins its downhill run, its momentum becomes a real force. Engineers ride the brakes carefully, testing and adjusting as they go. Every so often, the weight and speed get ahead of them. A derailment reminds everyone that physics doesn't ne- negotiate. I I think of those trains whenever I consider what it's like to learn the ideas in A Course in Miracles. There is a similar kind of momentum at work, but it operates in a very different direction. This course describes the pull of truth as something built in the mind itself. Truth is not absent here, but it is obscure. Once you allow even a little light in something begins to move. You may try to resist, but resistance doesn't stay convincing for long. The shift has started. You feel it in the small ways at first, a moment of peace you didn't expect, a softened reaction where anger used to flare, a sense that forgiveness is becoming easier, not harder. This is the beginning of spiritual momentum. Most of us turn to ACIM because some part of life has become too heavy. We want relief from fear, conflict, or confusion. We want something simpler than the constant negotiating of the ego. The Course gives us a way to set a new direction, but it does not force speed. It simply invites willingness. At the start, we apply the ideas to small problems, a relationship tension here, a worry there. We test the brakes just as cautious engineer might, but the mind notices that these small experiments bring real peace. Something relaxes, something opens. That's when the momentum increases. Wow. The Course often stresses that learning is not about adding something new, but uncovering what was always been true. The truth in you remains as radiant as a star. It says as pure as light. You are remembering, not acquiring. And remembering has a natural velocity. Once the mind recognizes peace, even for a moment, it becomes harder to settle for its absence. Fear feels heavier. Judgment feels unnatural. You begin to sense that there's another way to live, and that sense grows. But here's where the train metaphor becomes especially important. Down the Cajun Pass, a train with too much momentum can derail. That kind of momentum is the momentum of pressure and weight. It can overwhelm the system designed to control it. Spiritual learning can feel similar when old fears rush back or habits flare up. You might think you've lost control. You might think the journey has gone off track. But the momentum of spirit is not momentum that causes derailment. It doesn't push or shove. It doesn't build pressure. It doesn't overwhelm the mind or demand more than you can handle. The ego's momentum might feel heavy and unstable, but spirit's momentum is steady, quiet, and safe. It guides rather than forces. It aligns rather than topples. Even when life feels like it's coming around a curve too fast, there is no danger in the movement of truth. The momentum does not break, it holds. This difference matters because every student of the course experiences moments that feel like derailment. Oh, yeah. You fall back into fear. You react in a way you thought you had already outgrown. You judge someone sharply and wonder why you haven't learned more. These moments aren't failures, they're simply places where old momentum tries to reassert itself. But the new direction has already taken hold. The track is still beneath you. Spirit has not lost you. The journey continues. The engineers who guide those trains never expect a perfect descent. They expect adjustments. They expect to watch the causes. They expect to correct speed and pressure along the way. The success of a downhill run is not measured by the absence of difficulty, but by the steadiness of response. ACIM learning works the same way. It doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for willingness. It asks for another choice. It asks for a pause when you remember to pause. It uses everything, even your hesitation. Forgiveness is never wasted. One sincere moment creates more forward movement than a dozen fearful ones can undo. Boy, isn't that the truth? And because the course is essentially a path of remembering, the pull down toward truth grows stronger the more you answer it. Even when you resist, you feel the tension of that resistance. Even when you fall back into grievance, you notice it sooner. Even when you cling to fear, part of you knows you don't really want it. The inner recognition is momentum. The train is already moving. It cannot return to the summit. It can pretend it hasn't tasted gravity. One of the quiet beauties of ACIM is its confidence in your eventual awakening. It never doubts that outcome. It speaks openly without certainty, and at the end, because the end is simply the recognition of what you've always been. You're not learning something fragile. You're not remembering something permanent. You can delay that remembrance, but you cannot erase it. Oh my God, this is brilliant. That's why the train image fits so well. Once it begins its descent, the direction is set. You can slow it, but you can't make it climb back uphill by force of will. The Course puts it more gently. What is true cannot be undone. What is false cannot last. So the question becomes simple. How do you want to ride the train? With fear or with trust? With clenched brakes or with quiet attention? With dread of losing control or with the confidence that spirit's momentum cannot harm you? You can resist, but not forever. You can hesitate, but the call of peace is patient. You can look away, but you cannot unknow what you have glimpsed. The direction of your learning is already aligned with your deepest desire to remember who you are. You can't stop the train. That is so brilliant. I felt like that was written for me today. even though I might have not shared about everything that this was basically saying, but that is true. I mean, I can only speak for myself. The thought will come up like, where I'm falling back and, I'm out down the rabbit hole. And all of that, it might be, something that happens due to, the uneasiness of love. But, because if we were really, really, really convinced that we deserve this love, we'd all have it. So it's kind of like the way I see all of this is what Robert was basically saying is you can delay it, but you can't stop it because the force, there's the book Power versus Force. If I'm not mistaken, the power is what we are. The force is how the ego is. It's very forceful. Anyway, Robert, well done. That's all I can say. Well done. Over to you, Lynn.
Thank you so much for reading that, Sharon. And wow, yeah, that was brilliant. You're right. Thank you, Robert, for sharing with us. And I wonder if anybody has any comments. I was
I don't
thinking
know. I
about
just, yeah.
Go ahead.
I've the last couple of days I've been feeling that. Like am I slipping because I just have something coming up, in family you know and the thing is what this basically showed me today is so what if you delay yourself? It's not necessary, but if you do, you go right back on track because nothing can stop this force or this power.
Right. And you can't delay it. I mean, you can delay in time, which means, I
Right,
still want to keep suffering. But the fact is, you're still moving. You're still at home with God. So
right.
all I'm delaying
Yeah,
is
right, right.
just,
You're home anyway. What difference does it make? It's just the thinking mind relaxes.
yep. And the whole thing about the train, I think about trains a lot because most places where we've lived, there have been trains just like Dove. There's a train that runs right by. And uh, when we lived in Ohio, uh, I mean, the trains were going all the time and they were building trains and people got hit by trains all the time. It was pretty crazy. But the engineer really can't do anything. It's almost impossible to stop that once it gets going. And my adopted son Brian was an engineer for some time after he got out of the army, and it's not. You think, oh, he's just up there riding and, the train's going and it's on a track, so it's not going to run off into the field unless it does. And then you got a problem. But for the most part, it's just tending things, tending gauges, tending, watching speed, watching the brakes, and making sure everything works, and it could be a very boring job actually. Uh, but I think the analogy is just so great. And what am I doing? Am I am I the engineer that's tending everything, or am I the engineer that's looking out the window at the cows? And I even one time when I was in high school, I had a train. Actually, I was walking home from school and by the railroad tracks, and this train was coming along and it just slowed down, slowed down, slowed down, stopped right in front of me where I was walking, and the guy hollers out the window, "Hey, you want to go to a party in Wyoming?" To which I was like, "Is this your typical pickup line?" But I was like 16. I'm like, "No, thank you." I'm on my way home from school. My mom would freak out if I didn't make it. But yeah, the train can stop if they want a date. Go ahead, Sally.
I just love that, Robert. I want to thank you for that. I don't know. I've been a course student for years, whatever. However, it doesn't matter. And I haven't really had any kind of transcendent kind of experiences. People say, I heard the Holy Spirit told me this and that and the other thing, and I just operate on trust. that it'll happen one day. I'm not ever going to quit doing it. It's my life. This is what I'm doing. So that just made me feel really good, you know. I mean, I feel a lot of peace and joy an awful lot of the time, and I'm able, luckily, to notice when I'm having, really crazy ego thoughts, and now I can kind of sit back and look at it, and say, okay, or if I feel uneasy, I can say, well, I'll just sit with this unease and notice it, and I just hope one day that and I know I will. One day I'll be in close contact with the Holy Spirit. So thank you so much for that.
That's funny. Well, you are right now.
That's what I tell myself. You want to go somewhere, but you're already there. You are what you're looking for, and so every time I'm at peace and happy, I think, yeah, I'm right here with my bro, the Holy Spirit.
Yep. That's good. Yeah.
I
I got
call
my
him HS. It's HS.
HS.
Yeah.
I got you.
Hanging
Jesus
with
is mine.
HS.
So, all right. I love you guys so much. Thank you, Robert, for sharing. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Let's go ahead and close this out. We'll see y'all tonight for the
Annihilated self.
Annihilated Soul. So I hope you enjoy that. I'm loving that book. And we will talk with